That's right.
So yeah, the people weren't allowed to visit.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, people claiming there was obviously his PR team, his admin team, who relentlessly post on X even as much as what he did previously, which was incessant. You had Liam Tufts in there as well, who hosts a podcast, which he's always got right wing and far right people on. They've all publicly stated saying that they couldn't see him on certain times, and if you go and see him, you've got to sign a waiver. But yeah, people still go who claim they've signed the waiver, but then they'll still go and see him and then tell everyone on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook all the talks that about him. And then of course, obviously the leaked podcast from his prison cell, and apparently always had his phone privileges taken away. Well, he's being punished by the law. He's then done a podcast while sitting in prison. I don't think you can do that. You're in there for a punishment. You should be doing You should be adhering to the rules. And it's like, oh, he's had the phone taken away from his son. Well, his son shouldn't have passed him on to a record then, should he?
It amazes me because these are the very people that scream law and order as well, and people need to be punished and following the parties that are shouting for the death penalty and stricter punishments for crimes. But when people get punished, they're up in arms
Mm.
about it. So he's kind of in there. We know he's in there for the right reasons. The but I can't find, and I've tried many times to find a reason why all of these messages keep coming out. Why there's this manipulation of social media around his breach of human rights, around his mental health, around whatever. And I've tried to look at it objectively and say, right, is any of this factual? Could any of this be true? Could it be real about what he's suffering, what he's facing? And I come back to the same thing. It's this is money. This is a game. I can't. I was hoping you may be able to provide
It's
something.
the grift. It's literally it because he lives off donations. It's So in terms of the big question I asked, as soon as I saw this whole thing about his food being taken away and this kind of thing, because it started resembling when Ross Kemp did that, not dispatches, but he did like an interview thing with him in his cell. He
Yeah.
had all the food on the table, all the drink. He's sitting there going, hang on a minute, this isn't exactly what he still gets 3 square meals a day and all of this as well. What's going on here? But
Do you know, just to touch on that Ross Kemp program, it really, you will have seen Tommy Robinson cry. And
oh, I've seen the crocodile tears. Yeah,
I'm not going to take any of it, right? Prison is hard. It will have its toll, regardless of who you are. But what amazed me afterwards was the amount of podcasts that he then appeared on, saying he was the big man in prison and how he faced people up. But he spent the whole time in isolation. So how the hell does that happen?
yep,
But his supporters lapped it up.
yeah.
What what is it in your head that why people would follow this grift? I mean, obviously there's the hate. He provides hate for people. But you're looking at somebody with a net worth of around £2 million. He's got £1 million house, and you're giving your universal credits to keep that going. Well,
Yeah,
that was derogatory of me. I shouldn't have said that. But do you know what I mean? You're looking at predominantly from the research, low income people
yeah.
donating money to a multimillionaire. What is it that attracts people to do that?
It's like he's a multi-millionaire who also has a supposedly it's a controlling stake, but yet according to Company House, it's his wife who owns Rebel News,
Mm,
which means it's him
mhm.
because the wife who divorced him and left him. Now, in terms of why people follow him, I've been trying to wrap my brain for this for quite a while. I find very similar to other extremes, he gives people a reason why their life is so crappy.
Mhm.
People who can't take responsibility for themselves, people who can't take accountability for themselves, who look to blame anything and everyone because of the situation they're in, whether it's the government, whether it's the teachers, whether it's the boss. A lot of his followers seem to take issue and credence with everything and anything that isn't them. And I found that Robinson's got one. There's one thing that's very good. One thing that's very strong in his favor is he's very good with words. He's very good at saying the right thing at the right time. Now, granted, if you look at several police officers who've said throughout the years, he knows where the line is, which is why he's very seldom been taken because he knows.
Mm.
So he's obviously aware of it. But I found watching a lot of his old speeches and some of his more recent ones as well, when he looks like the August riots in 2024, for example, where people claim he was inciting them, but when you look at exactly what he's saying, he's so on the line. People who are against him are going to say he's over it. People who are with him are going to say he's behind it. So it's literally like he's on that precipice.
Yeah.
And the way I can put it is it's like old school wrestling. For a lot of people who don't know, obviously, because wrestling's fake, it's manipulated, it's all that. Like, people want to say that, it's up to them.
How dare you?
I still watch it. I love it. But the best talkers, they're the ones who gets bums in seats.
Mm.
And the best talkers will tell you two to three things that you know are true, right? And then when they've got you with those two or three things, because your brain's already engaged thinking, oh, they said this is true. Oh yeah, they said, oh yeah, that's true as well. Another thing they said, oh, that's true as well. Their brains instantly go engage with the fourth thing, which is demonstrably false. But because those first three things are true, you assume the fourth thing is true. And that's the work. And he is so good at that. Nigel is incredible at it. You tell a few truths to get
Mm.
people hooked, and that is where you come in with the backhand, underhand tactics of getting people in with the work. And that's how you get people on side. He's very, very eloquent at it. And
So
he strikes a lot of chords with a lot of people.
what's your thoughts then? Because I keep feeling like I might be fear mongering to an extent that I keep thinking this is the closest we have been in my lifetime to fascism. Because
100%.
everything they do is from that playbook. Particularly Robinson, he knows where that line is. He knows
Yeah.
how to sail close to the wind, and he knows how to manipulate people. And he knows and everything that they talk about, the disdain for the media, for democracy, for the judiciary, pointing the fingers at minorities. It's all straight out of the fascist playbook. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of sick of using the word because I feel like I'm overplaying it now. But this is the closest I've been in my lifetime to seeing fascism on the march. And
Yeah.
and I've been in the streets with the NF and all the rest of it. They were a street movement that could be taken care of. These people are streamed into our houses every single day, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where they've got the control. Why do you think that is allowed to rise within our communities again? What's happening that has set that the scene or set the stall out for them to actually take hold?
I think it's like for that particular thing. I think it's an amalgamation of a lot of things. I don't think you could be able to narrow it down to just one or even three key points. I think there's a load of issues. Like one of the first things you can obviously point the finger to. You look at the media. You look at Daily Mail, for example. The last 40, 50 years of Daily Mail. If you've got crappy weather, it's the immigrants' problem. It's because of immigrants. Oh yeah, it's raining in July. Yep, it's because of the brown people. That's literally the Daily Mail.
Do you know, it might be
And
an appropriate point to say. I think it was so yesterday or the day the Daily Mail was voted the worst newspaper, and for telling the most lies for the third year running.
well, just to throw into a little bit of fact on that one, the bloke who runs the Daily Mail,
Mhm.
he gave Boris a very high job in the Daily Mail, and Boris, when he was Prime Minister, tried getting the Daily Mail guy a very, very lucrative job in government. So it's very insidious and incestuous what's going on there. But yeah, considering he's got Boris in there, I'm not surprised it's been voted the third year in a row
Yeah,
for
I
it.
mean, his name eludes me now, but Um,
I can't remember the guy's name, but if Boris got what he wanted out of him, that would have been really problematic.
this is
But
it's in a huge mansion in the countryside telling you that it's immigrants taking your money.
yeah, and it's like when you've got a lot of media who are demonizing people because of their skin color, because of their language, or where they're born, and then of course you see how I was going to say controversy creates cash, but it's not the right word. It's yeah, controversy is what sells. So what would you rather if you see a newspaper and you've got a choice, say you're on the train, you haven't got a phone, like right, pick up the paper. What's going to grab your attention more? Firefighters who save a kitten from a tree, or 20 men coming on boats that our economy's crashing. And they've come in military age, fighting men, that rhetoric. And I think it doesn't. I think, like I said, there's so many reasons for it. It's not just the media. When you got political figures who are doing it, when you got public figures who are doing it and parroting these words and making things sound even worse than they are, and then of course you've got. It doesn't help when you have Starmer, for example, who called everybody who took part in those riots far right, and anyone who associated with them far right. It's like that doesn't help masses. That actually makes things worse because that obviously isn't the case.
So
And
touching,
then,
I just want to ask you about that because in recent days, Storm has come out and rather than giving, I think it was in Scotland, rather than giving a speech about how he's going to support Scotland and move Scotland forward, his platform was all about taking Reform UK on.
yeah, I saw a bit of it. I didn't see enough of it though.
Yeah, and that kind of confused me because I mean, I'm not a Labour supporter. Uh,
Same.
I tried many years ago, but I'm certainly not a Starmer supporter.
Yeah,
But
definitely though.
it just felt like me that he lacked policy. He lacked a credible plan going forward to just purely come out and attack reform on the stage. And I get it. I get he needs to attack him and he needs to call them out.
Mm.
But the best way to do that is through credible policies. I don't even know where I was going. I did have a question there for you, and I don't know where I was going with it. But yeah. So, are in your opinion, are Labour allowing this to grow because we've had 14 years of austerity, which is a breeding ground for the far right. But is Starmer now feeding into the right wing's hands with the way that he's doing things?
I'm unsure, just because of considering how he's handled Kemi Badenoch. I mean, to be fair, I think even Stevie Wonder could have handled Kemi Badenoch with the things that she was coming out with. Because my God, it didn't take a genius to work out that she'd been fed some nonsense.
Mm.
And I think him coming to attack Nigel obviously is a. It shows that he's concerned
Mm.
because I haven't seen the full thing of what he said. I don't know exactly how he's come across, but if he's starting to fight back, it's good to show some character. But I'm in the same boat as you because I didn't vote for him. I don't agree with a lot of things that he's said and done. I mean, again, like if anyone wants to anyone just a brief 30 seconds on him, anyone wants to look into why I find Starmer hypocritical in what he says and does, go and look at what he said about the Croatian genocide and you see the exact wording that he used in the Court of was it Court of Human Rights it was in, or was it ICJ? It's one of the two. He was standing up as when he was a barrister for human rights. Then he was proving about how the Croatians were getting genocide against them. He used the exact definition of genocide, which is what's happening over in a certain area that we'll probably have to be very aware on what we say. But what is happening over there fits that exact same description and definition. But yet Starmer's publicly gone, no, it doesn't fit that. Well, hang on a minute, mate. You literally said it did 10 years ago. How does it not
Yeah,
now? What's going on here?
I think he's got himself stuck between a rock and a hard place on that one purely because
Yeah.
what he did to Corbyn. Corbyn was a staunch supporter of Palestine, and suddenly he was an anti-Semite, and Keir Starmer kind of led that charge, if you like. So it's
Yeah.
if he comes out in the same way, then kind of exposes him for what happened during that period.
But I think the with like where we said about the fascism side of it, I
Mm,
think a lot of people don't actually realize the definition of it. A lot of people are using it in the wrong sense. And as soon as you start using a word in the wrong sense and you start overusing it, it then like the impact of it is negated.
mm.
You know, if you sit there and say to someone these days, "Oh, what you're saying is racist," no, people don't even bat an eyelid anymore. Whereas when I was a kid, if you got called racist, my God, you had villagers, pitchforks, fire, everything. You know, it was like a really bad thing. Whereas these days, it's not because I think again because it's so overused and because people are using it in the wrong sense as well. I think a lot of youngsters don't actually realize what fascism actually is. I think they just see a word and just latch onto it.
I think so. I mean, it has been overused, and I'm kind of guilty of some of that because I'm getting so tired of trying to skirt around the edges and have conversations. It's like, look, this is what you are. Let's be honest. But I think the biggest issue that we've got is that fascism doesn't come marching in. It doesn't come screaming and shouting. It's something
That
that
comes
you
in for the
slowly,
back door.
yeah, yeah, it's something that you're slowly manipulated into, where society is conned into accepting it because you just drip fed this rhetoric. And I don't know how we combat that, if you like, because I think I'm okay in real life. I understand it in real life. Out there in the real world, I can combat it. I can discuss it. I can
Mm.
debate it. But the whole social media influence at this moment in time, that baffles me sometimes. It really does baffle me. I I struggle to remain calm at times. It's like how what is your view, particularly because we're seeing a lot of young people come through now who aren't supporting Reform UK. So what is your
Yeah.
message to them in terms of how you combat that, how you start that conversation, that education program that's going to say no?
The So the thing about obviously the problem we've got with the internet, even though it's a great and wonderful tool for the fact that we can have information at our fingertips, you know, we can see parts of the world that some people might like some people who can't go on a plane, can't go on a boat, but they can see Machu Picchu, like quite literally in real time. You know, it might not be the best, might not be the same thing seeing with your eyes, but you can see it on screen live time. And it's like, wow, couldn't have ever done that when I was a kid, kind of thing. So you think, you know, we've got all this access to knowledge throughout the entire world,
Mm,
vast cultures, all these great things. But then you have the other side of the coin where you've got people who set up fake accounts who gurgle some sort of garbage out there going, you know, whether you want to see Robertson as a political prisoner, Nigel being, you know, the patriot that apparently he is. I still doubt that personally. It's with social media, a lot of people, it's very opinion based. It's a lot of things very opinion based. People go into some of these like TikTok debates and stuff preordained with their thoughts, with their views. And as soon as you criticize it with a valid point or point out something very, very flawed,
mm,
like, for example, uh, Reform's contract. So apparently it's not a manifesto, it's a contract. Like how they claim they want to save the NHS via insurance,
mm.
which then you look at and go, well, hang on, that's privatising the NHS, isn't it? But, oh no, vote Reform going to save the economy. Okay, how? Where in their contract does it say this? And as soon as you start asking questions, people get so offended by it that it's then hit with, you know, childish insults. You know, people do like say whatever they can. And again, the internet is a place like X, for example, where you can quite literally say anything you want. Although you will get community noted if you say certain things, but you can just say whatever you want. And if you show 10-second clip of like a minute interaction, it can change that entire minute's actual interaction and how people view it and see it, which is then where you get people like Nigel and Tommy, who in that sense are two peas in a pod, because they'll take 10 seconds out of a minute to manipulate people into thinking their way.
So how do you go about changing that narrative? Because when I was growing up, it was all very much education. You took to the streets, you knocked on doors, you handed out leaflets,
Yeah.
you conversed on people's doorsteps, and you had those very conversations. And the right wing, whether I like them or not, they've always been very, very consistent in their approach and in their thoughts. So it was very easy to have those conversations.
Mm.
Now, because one of the things I associate with fascism is that they have this very set idea of us versus them, and that will never ever change. But
Yes.
I'm seeing that grow on the left. It's us versus them, and there is no meeting in the middle to
Yeah.
converse like adults. And I'm guilty of that at times. I'll put my hands up, but it's difficult to converse on social media in a way that is constructive.
Very.
How do you challenge that, and how do you change that in this world of social media? Because I'm no longer meeting people on the streets who I know are right.
Mm.
I'm no longer confronting them or having that conversation with them. So how do you do that online when there is a very strict line now? You're for or you're against either side.
So with the way that I'm doing it these days is so of course obviously I've got my videos and my content that I put out
Mm,
there, which no one else does, no one else touches. Everything I do, obviously you see the videos, you see articles that I cite from,
mm,
paragraphs that I quote, everything, and then I come up with my conclusion. Sometimes conclusions even before the actual video starts, and you see how I get there.
mm,
And obviously, with the following that I've got is quite good because I reach a bit more than just your average person, which is
yeah.
obviously very wonderful and very thankful, of course, for all the people who do. In terms of like, I'd rather the way that I'm looking at it is with my account, I'm getting facts out there,
Mm,
and if there's things that I don't agree with, I'm still going to say them because it's facts.
mm,
And a lot of people don't seem to want to do that. A lot of people just want to, clickbait, rage bait. And in terms of, when you're doing like a live panel debate, which 99 times out of 100, that's a misnomer. They don't want a debate. They just want two people who don't agree with their six panel and they can just berate them, shut them down. Anyone who says anything remotely controversial, it's instantly shut down, insults. And it's like, it's not a debate. So I've started doing lives now. It's, if I'm talking about a topic, I might have two or three people up. I'm still learning how to do it because
mm.
I've got some major shortcomings in myself for how I control things, which is still just a learning curve. But anytime that I've done like a one to one, like when I said, if you vote reform, coming up, tell me why, explain this problem for me. Because, like, for example, uh, reform don't seem to have a, tax cuts without clear funding, for example.
Yeah.
There's no definition in their manifesto contract about that. Why, like, again, why have you got James McMurdoch, MP, convicted woman beater, who was convicted of kicking his girlfriend on the floor repeatedly? How is this man an MP? He couldn't get a job in a school teaching children, but he can be potentially a lawmaker for women. Someone help me. Help me understand this. And don't give me the, oh, well, he's been rehabilitated. 19 days in prison for woman beating. That is something that to me should be years, just
I
on my opinion of it. But I will
well,
give people a fair platform to give their views across.
I'll chirp in on that one because my understanding of working in social care, and I've worked with victims for a number of years, and one of the things around being rehabilitated was the language that you used, the acceptance. You could hear it in the language and the voice, and not once have I heard any acceptance nor an apology. He still talks about it. Well, he only talked about it being an indiscretion when he was pushed, and that those words were from somebody from Reform UK, not his. They were said long before he said it was an indiscretion, and I still haven't heard him apologise. I still haven't heard him say it was wrong. I haven't heard Nigel say it was wrong. I haven't heard Richard say it was wrong. And
They've both defended him.
the words he uses tells me he is not rehabilitated. And you are
Absolutely.
very right. If you cannot pass a DBS, you can't be an MP. If you can't work with the most vulnerable in society, you certainly can't be setting the laws for the most vulnerable in society. That is
Mm-hmm.
shocking and it's shameful. And we shouldn't accept that. We should never, ever, ever
No,
accept.
absolutely. You wouldn't have if you wouldn't have this if you wouldn't have him teaching your children, you shouldn't have him potentially helping run your country. Like it's a simple fact of it, and the fact that Nigel has openly stated now, well, to get into reform to be a member, there's a strict vetting process. There's all of these policies in place. Oh, okay, Nigel. Are you going to apply it to your current crop? Just a matter of interest. Just apply it to him. See what happens.
Well,
But
yeah, after he made that statement, he went and brought in Paul Nuttall, who was the Holocaust denier and a Hitler sympathiser, and lied about
oh yeah,
dying at Hillsborough. Prior to that, he had somebody over in Staffordshire as a regional organiser who was affiliated to a very far right extreme group. He was a member of them. And you're vetting these people. You're telling me you're vetting them, but they're still coming. They're still coming.
yeah. Like
How?
I tried doing a video on him as well, and TikTok took it down because they said the even though that I was explaining who this man is and what his views are and things he's said and done, I was flagged for promoting extremism.
Is that the Staffordshire one?
Yeah,
Yeah, I got taken down within seconds for that one. Uh,
literally. Yeah, I had like a few thousand views, and all of a sudden it was just gone, and I had a warning straight away. I peeled it, and they went, "Yeah, no, you promoted extremism." Like, what? What do you mean? I explode? What?
he's still on
Yeah,
TikTok somewhere under a different name, I'm led to believe. But I'll sadly admit that I did actually write to Nigel Farage and said, explain James McMurdoch to me, explain your Staffordshire regional organiser to me, and explain Paul Nuttall to me using your vetting process. Tell me how that's got through. I'm still waiting. I didn't even get an acknowledgement to say the email had been received. Do you know, it was bizarre, but at least I copied in Angela Rayner, and she did get back to us saying that it is a serious issue and we will look into it. I've heard nothing since, but at least I got a response from her.
yeah.
Nigel Farage, not even a thank you for your email, we'll get back to you. You know,
But I'm waiting. I'm keeping a very close eye on when he's next on LBC. When he's next on, you bet your backside I'm calling in for that.
did you see the recent one? The recent one with
I saw with Richard Tice. Oh yeah.
no, there was one with Nigel Farage about this
Oh, he done
book.
another one, did he?
I'm sure I seen a clip the other day. Somebody shared some clips. I was assuming it was recent because I hadn't seen it. Um, this gentleman rang in basically thanking Nigel for the profound impact he'd had on his life and how he was against leaving the EU but was now pro leaving the EU and really really loved Nigel because he'd had this major incident in his life which just showed everything in a new light. And Nigel's sitting there with his smug look on his face. And then the
Yeah.
black bloke kept going on and on. Nigel went, "Do you mind us asking what this major incident was?" And he went, "I got kicked in the head by a horse." And Nigel's face just dropped, basically intimating that he now has brain damage and he votes Reform UK.
No.
But it was the whole smugness of Farage all the way through this bloke speaking. He's sitting there with a big smile on his face, and then his face just dropped at the end. So I'm assuming it was a new one because I'd never seen it before. But
I
yeah,
haven't seen that. That's going to be interesting.
yeah, I need to find the whole clip to see what else happened on it. But it's in whilst you're talking about LBC, one of the things that I think I've spoke to a few people now, particularly younger people, who are looking
Mm.
for media outlets to get information from, to get factual information from. So, are there any particular sources of information that you find particularly useful?
My main, well, one of my main sources is Reuters
Mm,
because they're the news givers of the world basically. For a lot of people who don't actually understand and realize how newscast rooms work and everything,
mm,
Reuters literally provide all the news companies the news. It's just down to how the news companies interpret their like that news in their fashion. So that's why everyone gets the same sort of news, and it's then just picked and choose like what gets said in whatever way to that individual company. So Reuters, because they use a lot of fact checking. I've looked into as much of their company as possible to see to make sure there's no affiliations with any countries or policies or politics. And it is from everything that I found, they are strictly neutral. They are literally Switzerland, which is very handy.
mm.
Um, in terms of other articles, I might occasionally see, I mean, much to my chagrin, of course, Sky, BBC, but I will cross check it with other sources to verify. So if I see something like, unless it's something that is legally factual,
Mm.
then you can take it at face value because Sky, BBC, and everyone else has held to certain standards. And if you false report on a legal matter, for example, you're in a lot of trouble. Of
Yeah,
course,
it's literally, I've just had the conversations with people coming saying, right, where can I go that's accurate? that I know if I read that, but I guess that's down to laziness, isn't it? In this world of the internet,
Yeah,
people don't want to actually go and do, you know, it just remind me of a conversation where, to do my research, I had to walk 20 minutes to the library and read a number of books before I could actually
mm,
come up with an argument in my head and then 20 minutes back home. Now it's like 2 seconds at your fingertips and people can't be bothered to do it.
yeah,
That's like, it's a bizarre thing that's taking place with this generation that's coming through now. So
yeah. Absolutely. I can't get my head around it. That's why it's like this. These wonderful things that we have on our phones, like in our hands, our phones, and but it's like it just takes literally 5 seconds to type in something, and then just a few minutes of your time to read into it and look. It's something really simple, and I don't understand why.
yeah, it, it,
I just don't get it. I really don't.
it annoys me because somebody will come on and say, "Have you got the facts for that on a video?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just go and Google this because I haven't got enough space to like type it." Then they'll come back out 2 hours later and say, "So you haven't got the evidence?"
Yeah,
Like you've just waited 2 hours when you could have actually spent 30 seconds and you could have just checked the link that I sent you. Why should I check the link? It's your post. Oh, really?
I get so many comments on videos, especially when I've done them about Nigel or Tommy. They look at it and go, "Oh well, that website's left wing. Oh, that website's this. That website's that." Like, yeah, you know what? That's your opinion. I've stopped arguing with comments a long time ago. I just sit there and go, "That's your opinion. I hope you have the day you deserve." It's the easiest way to get around it now.
I like that comment. It can go either way. I like that. No,
Yeah.
it's just interesting watching these debates take place and how people would, you will say, oh, well, I got this information from the BBC. Oh, well, the BBC's biased. Or does anybody still read? Well, actually, the BBC quoted the court case and gave a link to the papers of the court case. So obviously, I know what I'm
Yep.
talking about. The BBC aren't going to print, aren't going to take the minutes from a court case and change them round to promote it on the website, other.
Yeah.
You know
Exactly.
what I mean? It's simple little things like that, and that's
And
what
that's where you get court corruption. Apparently. Oh, the courts are corrupt.
the courts are
Are
corrupt.
they? And yet the copper who shot the kid in the car a couple of years ago, who got found not guilty, was that court corrupt? No. Oh, was that because they found the decision that you wanted it to be?
Um,
It's if it's not one thing, it's another. You just a lot of the time it's just nowadays I'm just having it just water off ducks' backs now. Just like yeah, it's not. I'm not going to let them bother me.
it's yeah. I used to be like you. It causes me sleepless nights now because I do think we haven't got that sense of community anymore because everything takes place in a virtual world. We and I keep harping back to the good old days, and they weren't great most of the time, but
I was going to say yeah.
growing up during the Thatcher years was horrific, but it gave
I can
us
imagine.
but it gave us a sense of community. It brought the community closer together. And if you were a racist in our streets, the streets would come out and bring you down.
Yeah,
People,
exactly.
people would, but we haven't got that anymore. We haven't got that sense of community. And that's one of the things I wrestled with in my head is how do we get that back?
I think it's just putting like just put yourself like the way I'm trying to do it now. I'm just putting myself out there. If people like what I'm doing, they follow it, they like it, they comment, they'll keep following them at like whatever I'm doing. If they agree, they do. Happy days, And obviously, a lot of I've got a big following now with Bailey. Um, like my more recent content regarding the sorry dog, stop that. Um, obviously with the more recent content since the August riots and everything, everything's been right wing
Mm.
against Islam essentially. And I'm sitting there going, right, let's start fact checking all this. Let's start actually seeing exactly where these problems are and what these problems actually are. And of course, when I'm defending, if I'm like I'm defending a religion, the majority of my time at the moment, even though I don't believe in it myself because I'm an atheist, but
Mm.
I believe that people should have freedom of expression. People should be able to believe what they want to in terms of religion. That's one of the best things about British culture, freedom of expression. But apparently, according to certain people, we're losing our culture. So it's yeah. I just look and go, you know what? I'm just going to put my stuff out there, and if people agree, people agree. If they don't agree, that is their choice. She's found a sweet toy.
I've never known a culture that wasn't multicultural. And
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. You know, you look at, I mean, something simple as well. You look at like English cuisine, not exactly the most flavour and exuberant, but you look at a Sunday roast and then you look at a tikka masala. British food, but inspired somewhere else. Like, it's wonderful.
really, absolutely, well, that's that recent debate, isn't it, about Five Guys and their halal restaurant?
You
Like,
mean the Five Guys? You mean sorry? Just so I'm getting this one right because I saw this on who's that? Who's that? I was going to slur then. Patrick Christie. Yes, him. My God,
mm,
he made it sound like it was the end of the world. It's a singular store in Birmingham.
mhm.
A singular store. Good God. Does he go to Waitrose, see the halal section, and start throwing a fit? Like, is this what this guy is? Like,
It just made us think of that when you're talking about the British tradition, because the British tradition is going getting a kebab on the way home, and 99.9% of kebabs are halal. And it's like, seriously, you've never thought about this before, but GB News has told you to be angry, so
yeah,
you're angry, and it's like, oh, good God.
you
Yeah.
just sit there and just like, just why? Just what is, again, it's just more, it's more demonizing. It's more, oh, look at this. So now basically they're just accusing Five Guys of just bending over to something that isn't accurate, even though Five Guys is American. Five
Yeah,
Guys
yeah,
follows
yeah.
American rules.
I mean, God forbid an organization like pitches itself towards its customer base. How dare they?
Yeah, just imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine that you've got a store that doesn't work very well, but you can advertise to your immediate community and benefit them as well.
We're going to have to draw this to an end because I can't get another one. You're going to have to come back on because we could go on all day long. Um, thank you very, very much. I think get on and follow this channel. I'll put the links up to your TikTok and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Send them over.
No, I'll promote your TikTok on this as well. Um, and I'll get this edited tomorrow. The whole video will go up on YouTube, hopefully tomorrow or by the end of tomorrow. But then there'll be smaller chunks going out as well if you want to use them for
Yeah, that'll
anything.
be perfect.
Yeah, so I think it's 1 minute slots we're going to be doing on YouTube as well as the whole video. But it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you, and
Yeah, man. Pleasure as always.
I need to talk to you a little bit more. So we'll have you back on very, very soon.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Literally anytime. Obviously, you know, being full time carer and you know, obviously the caring system yourself, you know how it goes.
Well, look, you look after yourself, but more importantly, look after your partner and make sure you treat her right. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to you and enjoy the rest of the evening, mate.
Perfect stuff. Thank you very much, man. You too. Take care.
See you later. Bye bye.